Removing a water heater's anode rod can sometimes be difficult. Here are all the tips that you will need to get this job done. First off, let's locate your anode rod. Some water heaters like this one will have the anode rod exposed on the top of the tank. Others might have it hidden underneath a cap and insulation. The cap that I'm showing here is just for demonstration. The anode rod cap will usually be labeled anode or be closer to the center of the tank. Bradford white water heaters are the exception to this, and their anode rods are actually located in the hot water outlet of the water heater. Once you have located the anode rod, we will need to remove it. That's where the fun begins. These anode rods can sometimes be very difficult to remove, so here are a few tips and tricks that I have learned over the years as a licensed plumber. The first thing that we need to do is turn the power or gas off to the tank. Then turn off the water and drain down a small portion of the tank using the valve at the bottom of the heater. We want to leave as much water in the tank as possible to help keep it stationary while we try to remove the anode rod. The more weight that the tank has, the better. If you don't have a Bradford white water heater, these anode rods are universal in size and will almost always be 1 1/16. I recommend finding a socket that has 6 points like this one instead of a 12-point socket. The 12-point sockets can easily round off the head of the anode rod, so if possible, stay away from them. These anode rods, especially on older tanks, can be very difficult to remove. I recommend using a high torque impact wrench, but if you don't have access to one, a breaker bar or ratcheting wrench can work as well. If you're using a ratcheting wrench or a breaker bar, you might also need to add a metal pipe, what we refer to as a cheater pipe, to help with leverage. Food grade penetrating oil, such as Blaster, can also be applied to help loosen the rod. If you have a Bradford white water heater, then you'll need a pipe wrench to take out the hot side inlet pipe. If the rod is stuck bad enough and the tank begins to turn, you can use a 2x4 and ratchet strap to help keep the tank from spinning. To do this, you want to put the strap around the tank. I use a pad to help keep from denting the tank, and then use a 2x4 between the strap and the wall to keep the tank stationary. Use another 2x4 as a brace for the wall. Be sure that you are on a stud or the 2x4 is supported by a stud on either side. Once you have the anode rod loose, you can simply pull it out. If you had to dig through insulation to get to the rod, be sure to remove it first so that it doesn't fall into the tank. This could clog fixtures later on. If you don't have enough clearance to pull the rod completely out, you can grab the bottom of the rod with pliers and cut it into sections as you remove it. Be careful because the rod may be hot. If you have to do this, use a saw to cut the rod and not a grinder, that way the rod doesn't spark. Now that you have the anode removed, you can install the new one. If you're looking for a permanent solution, so you don't have to go through this process again, install this powered anode rod by Corro-Protec. Or, if you are replacing your water heater, install the Corro-Protec powered anode rod during replacement so that you don't have to worry about this later on. These rods have a 20-year warranty and will not need to be replaced like a sacrificial anode rod would need to be. For a Bradford white water heater, you want to install the supplied fittings first and then the rod. Do not modify the anode or create homemade fittings. And that's really all there is to it. If you use these tips and follow these steps, you should have your anode rod removed in no time. This video has been brought to you by Corro-Protec.